Okay, we'll start the lecture. So today's topic is brainstem. So we have almost completed the head neck part, and we have also covered the spinal cord. So the basic topic from which CNS is going to start was the spinal cord. So now we'll move upward from the spinal cord upward. So it is brainstem. So what is brainstem first? So you have to understand brainstem is a part of the brain which consists of again three parts. So first part is midbrain, while the middle part is pons, and the lower part is medulla oblongata. These are the three parts. Uppermost is the midbrain, middle one is the pons, and lower part is medulla, which at the level of foramen magnum will continue as a spinal cord. Okay, so what is the purpose of this brainstem? So first, as we know the structure, you have to understand what is its function so that you will understand its further structure. So what is the purpose? As evolution progress, the brainstem functions were the basic functions which were needed for the or the essential for the life. And as the evolution progressed, the higher functions like criticism, memory, language, analysis, learning new things, that is gone to the cerebrum. So basic essential functions were restricted to the brainstem. So what are these functions? So this brainstem controls the flow between the brain and the body, as it is the stem. Then it controls the basic body function like respiration, heart rate, blood pressure, consciousness, and it is also a reflex center for vomiting, deglutition, sneezing, coughing, yawning. So all these functions are essential for life. It also contains the cranial nerve nuclei for the cranial nerves from 3rd to 12th. So only first and second cranial nerve, their nuclei are in the cerebrum, while from 3rd to 12th, they are in the brainstem. So it is one of the very important part of the brain. So these are the functions. First, it controls the flow between the brain and the body. It has many reflex centers. It also controls the heart rate, respiration, and blood pressure. And the cranial nerve nuclei are present for the 3rd to 12th nerve. So as we are going to see, saw the functions. Now let's see what is the case for this structure. I want you to understand this brainstem is very, very small. Though it is very small, it is very important. So how the injury to the brainstem will affect the body. So from this case, you will understand a minute injury will also cause a very big impact on the body. So let's see. It was a 70-year-old woman which came to the emergency room. She attended acupuncture therapy at local clinic 2 days ago. So there was an insertion of the acupuncture needle in the neck and she felt a severe pain. So that therapist prescribed 2 pieces of the aspirin and sent her home. It didn't work out. Now she presented in the OPD. She presented with severe headache, neck rigidity, vomiting, and right upper extremity hemiplegia. Hemi means half. So right-sided upper extremity is paralyzed. So just because of the acupuncture needle, she presented with headache, neck rigidity, and right upper extremity hemiplegia. So I want you to understand, smallest injury might also cause the biggest problems with the health. So that's how this brainstem is important. So now further with this case, now we have done the CT. So we found that there was a subarachnoid hemorrhage, that is below the arachnoid matter. There was a hematoma, that is the blood swelling in the dorsal part of the medulla oblongata. Now here you have to understand this brain, whatever anterior surface or whatever facing towards the anterior side will be called as a ventral, while whatever facing backward will be called as a dorsal. So this dorsal part of medulla oblongata where the hematoma is presented. Additionally, there is a fourth ventricle hemorrhage and mild hydrocephalus. So all of you know that in the cranial cavity with the brain there is CSF, that is cerebrospinal fluid, which is present within the cavity. These cavities are called as a ventricles. So we have two lateral ventricle, then a third ventricle and fourth ventricle. This fourth ventricle is in relation with medulla oblongata. So the injury to the medulla oblongata, it also causes injury with the fourth ventricle. So where normally only CSF should be present, now, because of the injury to the vessels, there is a hemorrhage. And because of that, there is an additional volume present in the ventricle along with CSF. To accommodate this additional volume, this ventricle has swelled. So this swelling is called as a hydrocephalus. So this was shown on the CT. Now with MRI also, which is very good for the soft tissues. CT is very good with the hard tissues like bone. So there was a hematoma in the medulla. Also there was a edema of the medulla, also for the cervical cord. So what was the treatment? We have to remove the additional volume so it will not cause any pressure symptoms on the brain. So we have to remove posterior fossa craniotomy decompression was done and hematoma was cleared. So now she is fine. So smallest injury can cause biggest impact. So that was just to show you how much compact structure brainstem is, and it will involve the many parts of the body. So let's see what is the first part, that is the lowermost part of the brainstem, medulla oblongata. Now it resembles a bulb shape. So previously it was also called as a bulb. It is a seat for the last four cranial nerve, that is glossopharyngeal nerve, vagus nerve, cranial or the accessory nerve, and 12th is the hypoglossal nerve. So these are the four cranial nerve nuclei which are present only in medulla. So in general, along with these nerves, it supplies tongue, pharynx, larynx, and palate. So if medulla is involved in any injury and along with all four cranial nerves are involved, then it is called as a bulbar palsy because medulla was resembling a bulb. So you have to remember this term. What is bulbar palsy or paralysis? That means it is involving the medulla. So what is medulla? It is the lowest part of the brainstem. It extends from the pons to the first cervical nerve. In the diagram, you can see this is the pons. And from lower border of the pons to first cervical nerve is the medulla. So it is located in the posterior cranial fossa. This will be the anterior cranial fossa. This is the middle cranial fossa, and this is the posterior cranial fossa. So in posterior cranial fossa also, it is present within the anterior part. Now, in posterior cranial fossa, it is below the infratentorial surface. So above will be supratentorial part. Tentorium, below the tentorium will be infratentorial. So if correct position is in anterior part of posterior cranial fossa, which is infratentorial. Now what is relation? Here you can see anteriorly it is related to the sloping surface of the occipital bone and the joint between the or the basic occiput. So internally it is called as a clevus. While posteriorly behind the medulla there is a cerebellum. So anteriorly is a bony part called as a clevus. Posteriorly there is a cerebellum. Obviously above will be pons and below will be spinal cord. So these are the relations of the medulla oblongata. Now this is how if we remove the medulla from the brain and if we see in the dissection hall, this will be the features what we will be able to see. So the structure resembles the spinal cord. So same as spinal cord, it has anterior and posterior median fissure or the sulcus. Here you can see this is the anterior median sulcus. Now it is divided into right and left equal halves, and again these right and left halves divided by the anterolateral and posterolateral sulci. So here you can see this will be anterolateral and then there will be posterolateral sulcus. So we'll see first the anterior part of the ventral part. Now, anteriorly, we can see there is a longitudinal elevation which is present on either side of the anterior median sulcus. Now, this elevation is called as a pyramid because it contains pyramidal tract fibers. This tract is also called as a corticospinal fibers. These fibers always cross from right to left and from left to right in the lower part of the pyramid. So in the upper part, you will be able to see a differentiating line between these two. In the lower part, it will be somewhat blurred because of the crossing of fibers. So this crossing of fiber is called as a decussation. As that is because of the pyramidal fibers, so it will be called as a pyramidal decussation. Okay. So anteriorly or ventrally, what we are able to see is the anterior median sulcus, which is dividing the medulla into two equal halves. And on either side of the anterior median sulcus, there is a longitudinal elevation, which is called as a pyramid. It is called as a pyramid because just underneath this pyramid, pyramidal tract passes. Pyramidal fibers, they are present within this pyramid. Now in the upper part, they are different from each other, but in the lower part, there is a crossing of the fibers, which is called as a decussation. So this is called as a pyramidal decussation. Pyramidal tract is also called as a corticospinal tract. So this is present on ventral side. Now after pyramid, we are able to see one more sulcus called as a anterolateral sulcus. Now this anterolateral sulcus separates again a longitudinal elevation that is called as an olive from pyramid. So this olive, again, this is called as an olive because underneath this olive, there is a gray matter, that is nucleus, called as an inferior olivary nucleus. So here you are able to see, here you can see this is a pyramidal decussation, anterior fissure, this is pyramid, and beside the pyramid, you can see the olive. Between the olive and the pyramid, you can see the ventrolateral or anterolateral sulcus. Now, below this olive, underneath this olive, there is a gray matter called as an inferior olivary nucleus. And at its lower edge, we can see the white matter fibers which are passing from the center towards the lateral side. So these are called as a circumolivary bundle. Circum means they are surrounding the olive. So this is circumolivary bundle. So that is lateral region of the ventral surface. Now, what is the importance of anterolateral sulcus? From this sulcus, a nerve comes out or emerges, which is called as a hypoglossal nerve. Here you can diagram, you will be able to see. This is a anterolateral sulcus, and from this sulcus, hypoglossal nerve rootlets are coming out and they together join to form the trunk of the hypoglossal nerve. In the diagram, the blue nerve or the blue color represents the motor, yellow color represents the sensory, and the green color represents the mixed nerve. So, from anterolateral sulcus, hypoglossal nerve emerges. Then, after the olive, again we are able to see one more sulcus, which is called as a posterolateral sulcus, which is just behind the olive. Again, from this sulcus, two nerves comes out. So one is called as a glossopharyngeal nerve, which is a mixed nerve. Also, vagus nerve, which is also coming from this posterolateral sulcus. So this was the lateral region. In the lateral region, what we are able to see was the olive, anterolateral sulcus, then posterolateral sulcus. These are the external features of the medulla, which we are able to see on the anterior or ventral surface. Now, come to the posterolateral region. Here, this is the dorsal surface of the medulla. Now, this medulla is divided into two parts. Upper part is called as the open part, which is related to the fourth ventricle, while the lower part is called as a closed part. Now, why it is open and closed? So here, in the spinal cord, you are seeing the central canal. So it is a closed canal through which the CSF passes. So in the medulla, same thing happens. In the upper part, there is no central canal. So it is open in the ventricle, and ventricle contains the CSF. Well, in the lower part, this ventricle again will form a canal and it passes through the substance of medulla oblongata. So that's why the lower part is called as a closed part. So upper part is V-shaped depression, which is related to the fourth ventricle, while in the lower part, we are able to see three longitudinal elevation. So again, there is a posterior median sulcus, which divides the medulla in the posterior pyramid, two right and left equal halves. Immediate to this median sulcus, we are able to see a elevation, which is because of the gracial tubercle or the nucleus of fasciculus gracialis. The elevation is because of nucleus of fasciculus gracialis, and this elevation will be called as a gracile tubercle. Lateral to this gracile tubercle, again there is a nucleus of fasciculus cuneatus. So this is called as a cuneate tubercle, which is because of the nucleus cuneatus. Then lateral to that, again there is elevation, which is called as a tuberculum cinereum. In the upper part, again it is called as an inferior cerebellar peduncle. So inferior cerebellar peduncle is a peduncle, that means a gate through which the fibers from the medulla are passing towards the cerebellum. So there are three peduncles for the cerebellum: superior, middle and inferior. So superior peduncle is joining the cerebellum with midbrain. Middle peduncle is joining the cerebellum with the pons, and the inferior peduncle joining the cerebellum with medulla. So according to their location, the peduncles are seen. So gracile tubercle, then cuneate tubercle, then tuberculum cinereum in the lower part. But in the upper part, we have a inferior cerebellar peduncle, which is this is the inferior cerebellar peduncle. So what is tuber cinereum? It is just lateral to the fasciculus cuneatus. It is also a gray matter where the nucleus is present, which is called as a spinal nucleus of trigeminal nerve, which will continue downwards as well. So trigeminal nerve is a fifth cranial nerve. It has multiple nuclei, in fact 4. One of them is called as a spinal nucleus of trigeminal nerve. This is present in medulla. And because of this tract, there is an elevation called as a tuber cinereum, which is present in the posterolateral region of the spinal cord. So this part I already told you, the medulla has upper part which is open, forms fourth ventricle, and lower part is closed where CSF present in central canal. So after these external features, we'll move towards the internal features. So this is the diagram for the spinal cord. I want you to understand that the medulla have the same structures as the spinal cord. So in the spinal cord, you are able to see this is the central canal. Around that, there is a gray matter, and outside this gray matter, there is a white matter. So white matter is divided into 3: posterior column, lateral column, and anterior column, and it contains numerous tracts. While the gray matter contains the nuclei. Similar structure is present in medulla. Obviously, medulla is changing from spinal cord towards the brain. So the medulla has different structures at different levels. So we study the medulla at 3 transverse sections, and we name them. First section is taken at the pyramidal decussation. So we cut the medulla at this level and we see the section. Then we go just a bit above, and there will be a sensory decussation, and at this level also we get the transverse section and we study the medulla. Third section is in the floor of the fourth ventricle, that is the open part of the medulla. So these are the 3 sections of the medulla. There are numerous changes happens at different levels, and through these changes we will learn how this medulla works, or the tracts from spinal cord moves towards the brain. So it has also 2 parts, same as the spinal cord: gray matter and white matter. So let's see, before learning the transverse section, some random facts are remaining. First, nerves emerging. We already seen that 9th, 10th, 11th and 12th cranial nerve. The ventricle which is related to medulla is called as a fourth ventricle. Reticular formation. So apart from the nuclei for cranial nerves and other nuclei, there are some diffuse network of nerve fibers which are also intermingled with numerous poorly defined nuclei. So it is very vast, and this network is also present within the midbrain, pons, and even in the cerebrum, but it is concentrated at the level of brainstem. So this network is called as a reticular formation. We'll study about this reticular formation in the upcoming lectures. Just remember that reticular formation has related to the consciousness, autonomic control. So again, autonomic control also comes at this level, at the level of medulla. Now, if there is an injury to medulla, we already seen there are cranial nerve nuclei. Medulla has a function of controlling the heart rate, blood pressure, and respiration. It is reflex center for yawning, coughing, swallowing. So, if there is an injury to the medulla, it can cause. So, what are the symptoms which are present? First, there will be difficulty in swallowing. There may be loss of gag and cough reflex. It is very important. If you chew a big particle, normally there will be a gag and you have to remove this particle through the mouth outside. But now if this particle, big particle goes inside, it will cause injury to the pharynx. It might go into larynx. It cause injury to esophagus. So this protective reflex is lost. Then it also causes vomiting. As the hypoglossal nerve is involved, tongue protrusion will be there. And if respiratory center is involved, there is a respiratory pattern changes. So these are the facts about the medulla. Now let's see the transverse sections of the medulla. So this is the transverse section of medulla at the level of pyramidal decussation. You are able to see the central canal. Around that there is again the butterfly shaped gray matter. Outside this gray matter, there is a white matter. It is also divided into posterior column, lateral column, and anterior column. So structure is almost similar to the spinal cord, and the tracts which are passing through the spinal cord, they are also continued through this medulla because they are going upward towards the thalamus, the sensory tracts. And that's why this is almost similar. What are the changes, or what is the different part separating the spinal cord from medulla? Only that part we will see here. So what is the gray matter? Now this gray matter, it contains spinal nucleus of accessory nerve laterally. Now here you are able to see this is a anterior median fissure. Beside that there is an elevation which is called as a pyramid. This pyramid contains the fibers called as a pyramidal tract or corticospinal tract. You have learned this tract in the spinal cord, so you know that it is divided into two parts: lateral corticospinal and anterior corticospinal. Now, lateral corticospinal tract is the crossed tract. So here, the fibers which are coming from upward, they have crossed to the opposite side in the lateral column. So that's why it is called as a lateral corticospinal tract. So from the one side, it is going to the opposite side. So same happens with the other side. So they are going to cross. As they are going to cross from the one side to opposite side, they has to cross the gray matter. So because of this white fibers, this gray matter, which was a centrally placed and in will be divided by these fibers from the remaining central matter. So this part is the detached anterior horn. Why this is detached? Because of the crossing of pyramidal fibers to the opposite side. So they are crossing from anterior column to the lateral column. So now this detached anterior horn is of gray matter. It is divided into two parts. So laterally, there is a supraspinal nucleus for the first cervical nerve. So this will be supraspinal nucleus for the first cervical nerve. And medially, it is a spinal nucleus of accessory nerve which continues downward in the spinal cord as well. So this detached anterior horn is actually a nucleus. So it is divided into two parts. Medially for accessory nerve, laterally for first cervical nerve. Okay, so now there is central gray matter. This matter is extended on the posterior column. So this is called as a This is a posterior median fissure. Beside that, there again elevation. So this elevation is called as a tubercle or the Grecial tubercle. Below this Grecial tubercle, there is a nucleus or the nucleus Grecialis. Then there is a second tubercle beside this Grecial tubercle, which is called as a cuneate tubercle. Below this cuneate tubercle, we have a nucleus cuneatus. Then there is again an elevation called as a tuber cinereum. Below that, there is a spinal nucleus for trigeminal nerve. So I hope you understood. You have to correlate the external features with the internal features. Here, this is a posterior median fissure. Beside that, there is an elevation called as a gracile tubercle. Below this gracile tubercle, there is an elevation of the gray matter called as a nucleus gratialis. Then there is a second elevation called as a cuneate tubercle. This cuneate tubercle, below that there is a nucleus cuneatus. Then beside nucleus cuneatus, again there is a third elevation which is called as a tuberculum cinereum. So below that there is a spinal nucleus of trigeminal nerve. So these are the three elevations which we are able to see on the posterior region, and we are able to see now what are the reasons for this elevation. So these are the gray matter which is present. So what is the gray matter which is present at the level of pyramidal decussation? Central gray matter. On the posterior side, we are able to see nucleus gratialis, nucleus cuneatus, and spinal nucleus of trigeminal nerve. While anteriorly, there is a detached anterior horn because of crossing of pyramidal fibers to the opposite side, which are crossing over the gray matter. So this anterior horn is detached. This anterior horn is divided into two parts. Laterally, there will be spinal nucleus of accessory nerve, while medially there will be supraspinal nucleus for first cervical nerve. Sorry, this opposite. Laterally there will be supraspinal nucleus, medially there will be spinal nucleus of accessory nerve. So that was the gray matter. This nerve cell body is present. Now let's see the white matter. White matter, as you know, posteriorly there are two tracts called as a posterior column tract. It is fasciculus gratialis and fasciculus cuneatus. So these are the two tracts which are present posteriorly. Now lateral column contains the lateral corticospinal tract, as the crossing of fiber happen at this level. So this is the lateral column. Anteriorly, there are some uncrossed fibers which will constitute the anterior corticospinal tract. Other than that, the other tracts which are present in the spinal cord will continue into the medulla, whether they are motor or sensory. Now, remaining part which is between the tracts and the gray matter is occupied by the reticular formation, which is a intermingling nerve fibers with poorly defined nuclei. So this is called as a reticular formation. So this is the section at the level of pyramidal decussation. This diagram is very important. So it comes as a short note as well. So draw the section of the medulla at the level of pyramidal decussation. So you have to draw this diagram and labeled it accordingly. So that was the section. Now this nucleus gratialis and cuneatus, these are the sensory tracts. So they go towards the thalamus. Well, olivary nucleus, that is inferior olivary nucleus, which we saw on the anterior part, which is just below the olive. It collects or it relays the information to the cerebral cortex, diencephalon, and brainstem. From here, it is taking the information, and now it is going to relay this information to the cerebellum. So this is a relay center where the information comes from the different sources. It is collected at one level, and now this information collectively will be gone to the cerebellum. So that is the function of olivary nucleus. I already told you that reticular formation, it helps to regulate vital autonomic functions because it connections with the different centers. So it interacts with respiratory rhythmicity and cardiovascular centers. It is also related with consciousness. So that was the medulla. So these are the very simplest form of MCQ I was able to write for you. So before that, if you want revision, we can take the revision. You want revision?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Okay. We'll start from the general information. So in the diagram, you are able to see this is the outer part of the cranium. Then this is the cranial cavity. In the anterior part, this is middle cranial fossa and this is posterior cranial fossa. So in the upper part, we are able to see the cerebrum. Then this is cerebellum. In front of the cerebellum, we are able to see this is the brain stem. And below that, now it will continue as a spinal cord. So you have to remember that whatever motor tracts or the sensory tracts, they are going towards the cerebrum, they has to pass through brainstem. So whatever tracts which are present in spinal cord, they will be present in medulla as well. Okay. So this is the lowest part of the brainstem, an extension from the lower border of the pons to the first cervical nerve. Anteriorly, there will be clevus, which is a sloping surface which is present on the occipital bone. Posteriorly, there will be cerebellum. Now, this medulla will pass through foramen magnum. As soon as it passes through magnum, it will be called as a spinal cord. Okay. So, the structure passing through foramen magnum is not spinal cord, but medulla. Okay. So, it is present in infratentorial part. Now, one more thing, I told you about the lateral ventricles and third ventricle and fourth ventricle. So here this is the location of third ventricle. From here it will continue downward. Now this is the fourth ventricle between the brainstem and cerebellum. So here you can see a small V-shaped cavity that will be the fourth ventricle. From here it will continue into the central canal of the spinal cord. So in continuation CSF will flow. So that was the relation of medulla. Previously, medulla was called as a bulb. So any injury to the medulla, if it involves all four cranial nerves, it will be called as a bulbar paralysis. So this is how the specimen will look like. Most of the time, if we want to remove the complete specimen, midbrain will be cut because it is too much deep into the cerebrum. And again, as spinal cord may not come as a part, or complete medulla will not be able to cut during the specimen. So most of the time we not able to see the pyramidal decussation. So same as the spinal cord, this will have an anterior median sulcus and posterior median fissure. So it will divide the medulla into right and left halves. So again, these right and left half are divided by anterolateral and posterolateral sulci into different regions. So anteriorly, beside this anterior median sulcus, a longitudinal elevation is seen, which is called as a pyramid. Why it is called as a pyramid? Because it contains the pyramidal fibers, which is also called as a corticospinal tract. Beside this pyramid, again longitudinal elevation is present, which is called as an olive. Now, why it is called as an olive? Because beneath that we have a grease matter called as the inferior olivary nucleus. In between these two, there is a sulcus called as an anterolateral sulcus, through which hypoglossal nerve emerges out. Okay? Behind the olive, there is a posterolateral sulcus through which 9th and 10th nerve comes out. So that is seen on the ventral surface. On the ventral surface, what we are able to see is the anteromedian sulcus, pyramid, then anterolateral sulcus, olive, then posterolateral sulcus. Now this pyramid, in the upper part, they are completely separated from each other, but in the lower part, there is a blurring of these features because of the fibers crossing from right to left and from left to right. So that is called as a decussation. So in the posterolateral region, you have to understand medulla in the upper part. So this is the border where this stria medullaris. Above the stria medullaris will be pons. Below the stria medullaris, there is a medulla. So this upper part of medulla is an open part. So it is a V-shaped depression in the upper part. And in the lower part, we have a closed part of the medulla. This closed part of medulla is divided again by posterior median sulcus into two parts. So they are both are symmetrical. Immediately to lateral to posterior median sulcus, we have a tubercle, which is for nucleus of nucleus for fasciculus gracialis. So it is called as a gracial tubercle. Lateral to that, there will be nucleus cuneatus, which is for nucleus for fasciculus cuneatus. So this is, and beside that, there is a tubercle for spinal nucleus of trigeminal nerve. So it is called as a tuberculum cinereum. These are the three tubercles present from medial to lateral. So posteriorly or dorsally, what we are able to see is this part. The open part we will see after in the next lecture. Then the structure similar to spinal cord, and we are able to learn this medulla through three sections. Today we are going to see only one section, that is at the level of pyramidal decussation. So this is how the transverse section of medulla looks like. So it is almost similar to the spinal cord. Centrally there is a central canal. Around that there is a central gray matter. On the outside to that there will be white matter. So central matter anteriorly we have an elevation called as a pyramid. So these fibers, they cross to the opposite side in the lateral column. So because of this crossing, anterior horn is separated from the remaining part of the central gray matter. So this is called as a detached anterior horn. It is again divided into two parts. Medially there is an accessory nerve nucleus, laterally there is a supraspinal nucleus for first cervical nerve. That is the anterior gray matter. Now posteriorly this gray matter extends into the posterior white column. Beside the posterior median sulcus there is a nucleus gracialis. Beside that there is a nucleus cuneatus, and beside that there is a spinal nucleus of trigeminal nerve. So that was the gray matter. Now white matter, in the posterior column we have three tracts. Medial most is the fasciculus gracialis. Beside that there is a fasciculus cuneatus, and beside that there is a spinal tract of trigeminal nerve. Lateral column contains the lateral corticospinal tract. Beside that, there are remaining tracts which are in the spinal cord will continue upwards or downwards, same as the spinal cord. Whatever space remains between these tracts is filled by the intermingling fibers with poorly defined nuclei, which is called as a reticular formation, which is a very prominent feature of the brainstem. So that was the white matter of the medulla. So what is the most important point in this level is the pyramidal decussation. So I hope you understood. We'll revise the today's topic as well as learn about remaining two sections and blood supply of the medulla in next lecture. That will be on Monday. So I hope it's a very simplest form of MCQ. You will be able to answer it. So bulbar palsy includes which nerve? Anyone wants to answer?
Glossopharyngeal nerve.
Yes, so that is 9th cranial nerve. Then location of medulla is?
Posterior cranial fossa.
Posterior cranial fossa.
Spinal tract.
Okay, actually it comes more of towards the lateral side. The posterior white column contains two tracts. One is fasciculus cuneatus and fasciculus gracialis. Okay, so was it okay? Or
yes,
was
ma'am.
it too speedy? I know medulla and brainstem, they are too hard. So that's why I'm taking your medulla in continuation and we'll revise it. So I hope you will read today. And if you have any questions, you will be able to ask in the next lecture. So we'll continue same as today's format. I will ask you questions in the last 10 minutes or 5 minutes. If you have any questions, you can ask me after the lecture. Is it okay for you?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So we'll stop today. Thank you for listening. Read to this topic. Okay.
Thank you, ma'am.